is Vita Day 3, and I was kind of hoping to wait to talk about this topic, but today hasn't really been a good day, so I figured why not talk about my struggles with health anxiety. For those of you that have been watching me for a long time, you know that I've been struggling with this for 4 years. On my old channel, I made a video talking about going into our experience of panic attack and how it just snowballed into all these things. And well, since February 14th, 2021, which was the day that I had my panic attack, I have suffered from health anxiety symptoms ever since. There were times when I kind of thought I was over it, and then it just came crashing back when I had another panic attack. And I can't say the last time I had an actual panic attack was actually January 1st. Not too sure why, but I had one. It sucked because I was here with like family, and we were all just trying to just have a good time for the new year. And yeah, I don't know why, but like I had a panic attack that night. And I've been okay since. I almost had one like last week, but it was just kind of like a flash in the pan, and I was like, I'm chill, I'm good, I'm good. But for the most part, I've struggled with health anxiety most of the time. And for those of you that don't know what health anxiety is, maybe you've never heard of it, and like you just know what kind of like generalized anxiety is. Health anxiety is when you focus on every sensation in your body. A lot of people would know it as hypochondria, but apparently that is not the term that is used anymore. Since everything has kind of just been, there's different types of anxieties. Hypochondria is basically health anxiety, or hypochondriasis is what it used to be called. And so I've had that. And I always thought I was a hypochondriac when I was younger as well. Like, I remember hearing that word on Boy Meets World, and there was like an episode where Corey thinks he's a freaking hypochondriac. And I was like, oh, that's me. I do that too. But it was never this bad. And like the thing that's really weird is that it happened when I quit having a normal job and I went into content creation full time. This is something I've talked about a lot with my therapist. I do think part of my anxiety has to do with success and trying to, make something happen with YouTube, or to make something happen with my writing or something like that. And, I think the underlying cause for health anxiety for a lot of people is a fear of death. I think, everybody I'm not saying everybody has that fear, but I would make a bet, and I think I would win most of the time, that people that have health anxiety also have a fear of death, because you are constantly scanning your body to find out, like, oh my God, is this twitch in my arm like early signs of muscle cancer? Or you just kind of like think everything can be cancer, right? And like, it kind of sucks. I mean, at least in America, I can't speak for other countries, that you are constantly bombarded with sensational headlines of cancer, crazy disease, and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's really important. Like, we kind of had a little bit of a pandemic a couple years ago. That was really important, even though some people didn't take that seriously. That was warranted. But I do think if you've ever watched American television, the commercials most of the time are like commercials for this new drug. And like, if you have this or early signs of this, you might want to take this medicine because it could prevent this. And it's just like you're constantly bombarded with these diseases that might be coming for you. Now, granted, that could be very possible. We could all be susceptible to these like crazy diseases. But when you have health anxiety, you will hear something like that and you'll be like, should I really be checking my body to see if I have that? Do I have lumps in my throat? And pretty crazy. Like, it's been pretty bad. And it's weird because if you guys saw, one of my last videos, because I haven't posted that much, the one where I talk about like I almost quit YouTube or whatever, that's when I talk about how I had a mental breakdown. And that happened back in November. And part of that was, a little bit of anxiety, but it was also like just a bunch of other factors. I was doing too much stuff or whatever. But health anxiety has always been there. And what was happening was I was having issues with my eyes. And like that has been my biggest symptom. Now, I thought I've had a lot of things over the last 4 years. The panic attack started because I was getting pressure around my heart. I thought I was having a heart attack. That's why I had a panic attack in the first place. And then as I started getting used to that, I dealt with that for like probably a year fully, and then maybe a year and a half to 2 years. I was like able to kind of get back to things. Some people that like watched my live streams or watched some videos that I tried to make after having my panic attack could 100% tell I was going through it or I wasn't the same. I remember having friends tell me like, dude, from what you were then to what you are now is a completely different person. But I'm still suffering from health anxiety all the time. Like, again, you'll have good days and you'll have bad days. I've been actually tracking. I bought one of these big ass calendars, like the calendars you can see like the full year on. It's not in this room, it's in my other room. And I actually keep track of if I had a good anxiety day, or I should say low anxiety day, which is green, like a medium anxiety day, which is yellow, and a red anxiety day. I only count that as like I had a panic attack. I've had one of those this year, and I would say I've probably in 2025 have probably had maybe 2 weeks worth of good anxiety days. Everything else has been yellow. Everything else has been a medium anxiety day. There are days when I feel like, a pain in my chest, and it's always like right here. It's not necessarily around my heart, but it's like right in the chest area right here. And I'm just like, what is that? Sometimes it'll be like over here. And let's be real. Most of the time, it's just gas. I gotta fart a little bit, or I gotta burp a little bit. I gotta do something like that. But my brain's like heart attack, heart attack, heart attack. And it just sucks, man. Like, cause you live with that all the time. But lately, the worst thing, and it's been for the last few months that I've been dealing with, is eye issues, man. Like, this has been like some of the scariest stuff because like my eyes are like constantly like, I don't want to say that they're blurry, but they just feel off. And like I don't even want to say it's double vision, but it just doesn't feel like they're perfect. It feels like I got like a motion blur on like sometimes. And it's like really weird. And sometimes I can put my glasses on and it makes it feel better after a while. And then sometimes it doesn't even matter. And I'm just like, it's like really weird. But then also, and by the way, I have to mention this. I go to the doctor. I get this stuff checked out. Literally just got my eyes checked out recently. Talking about last week recently. They looked in my eyes. They shined some stuff. They checked my pressures and all that jazz. And everything's good. I flat out asked I don't know what they're called. I just say eye doctor. I flat out asked him, I was like, look, doc, you don't see no magical cancer in there or anything like that? Like, you good? And he was like, no, I don't see anything like that. He did mention, because I had like took an x-ray of my eyes too. He said my nasal area has a little bit of inflammation in there. So like maybe allergies are causing some of these eye issues. I don't really know. He didn't really have a full answer, but he was like, I don't see anything that can be, that's cause for concern right now. He was like, I'll see you in a year and we'll check on your pressures and all that jazz then. And I'm just like, you hear that, right? And I think a normal person would think that's okay. But health anxiety sufferers automatically question a licensed professional. You're like, they didn't do enough. They didn't do this test. Because although like the doctor can see in my eye, right? My brain, like when these eye issues, it only happens mainly in my right eye, and it's not both eyes, so that's what also kind of scares me. But he's looked in both eyes, he doesn't see anything. It's like the back of my eye feels strained, like the muscles on the eye. And I'm like, are you able to see the muscles with your little fancy lights and stuff that you're putting in my eye, doc? And it's just like, I don't know what that is, and I even told this to like, because I have a therapist and a psychiatrist, but I only see the psychiatrist once a month to keep at bay, like, do I need medication for this? And I only see him once a month. I have not got on medication. I think I mentioned this in the first Vita video that I'm really trying to avoid that. And I haven't tried my hardest. I genuinely believe that to try to overcome these anxiety symptoms. And I am a big Googler, all right? I use Dr. Google all the time. And so at the same time that Vita is going on, I am trying not to research or do any kind of like making myself feel better type of stuff. I'm just trying to sit with these terrible sensations, which kind of sucks. Um, and just trying to tell myself, like, look, man, something serious has not happened to you in the last 4 years. So let's just pray that nothing's going to happen to you going forward while you're not searching up your symptoms. Because I think the more that you constantly search and you constantly do all these things, you're just feeding that anxiety. And I've heard that, I've read that, I've watched so many anxiety recovery videos. I've seen so many like anxiety gurus or writers or authors that have recovered from anxiety, or are actual like therapists and all that kind of jazz, have talked about how you recover from anxiety. And the only thing I can ever think of that I have constantly done this whole time is every time I'm having a really bad anxiety day, I try to figure out, like, I try to find an answer for why I'm having those symptoms. I'll find something similar and I'll be like, okay, this person experienced it. But it's never good enough. It's never good enough. And it sucks. Like it genuinely sucks. Like you just constantly, like, I've gotten to a point where it's not affecting my day-to-day life. Like I still go to the store, to the grocery store. I still work on my job. I still, I just went to go meet with a friend today to talk about a possible project that we can work on together. I had anxiety while I was doing that. Like my eyes were bugging out because I don't know, like when lights shift, my eyes get all like wow 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 wow. It's like weird. Like my eyes are trying to focus, and it's just like dimly lit lighting and stuff like that. My eyes can be really weird with, and I've heard some people say that that's something that they're real sensitive to lights, and so it's just kind of weird, man, because your eyes they're everything, right? I mean, obviously, like if you are somebody that has that, because obviously people that have lost their sight, I mean, or maybe they never had it, wouldn't agree with that saying. But for the most part, your eyes, like if you lose them, that's a pretty scary thought, right? For anybody that's been able to experience sight, I should say. And so it's seeing this, like the sudden change of stuff is like really weird. I had one moment when I was getting my haircut, and dude, I remember talking to my hairstylist. She's dope as fuck. And like I remember my eyes just going. It's like they autofocused. It's like everything went out of focus and went, like tried to go real sharp. And I was like hyper aware of everything. And dude, like trying to just talk to her and just be normal and like act like I'm not about to freak the fuck out in her chair sucks, man. Like a lot. And I think like, I think some people might see some of the videos I've done and be like, yo, Juice is back to old Juice or whatever. And don't realize like I'm still dealing with this on the daily, man. And trying to figure things out, trying to do it without medication. But, as it's been 4 years, as the days go on, I'm kind of like, should I get it? Should I get on there? Because, like, dude, when you get on medication, it's not a perfect fix, right? Like, a lot of people have to try different ones to figure out if those are going to work. And I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do that. And, like, sometimes you have to stay on for, like, 10 months and even longer sometimes. And I'm like, dude. But you also ask yourself the question, like, what if that gets you to not worry about your eyes all the time? Like, what if that's the part that's going to help you? But it's also like, it can also make you a little bit crazier or something. Like, there's just a bunch of different. Like, I had this whole discussion, like, literally 2 days ago with my psychiatrist because I'm like, you get worried about that kind of stuff, and it's just, I think especially with health anxiety, you're worried constantly about your health. So if you take medication that can make your health worse or better, you are constantly more fixated on the negative than you are the positive, which is another stupid thing. Again, you can have a doctor tell you that you are okay, everything is fantastic, everything is amazing, but you still question it. The moment you get out of there, you're like, I don't know. And I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if you guys can see this. Okay, can you see that little bump right there? There's a little bump in my arm. That bump freaked me the fuck out back in late January, early February, because this whole time I've had health anxiety, it's just been like sensations, right? Like, oh, pain in my neck, or like, oh, my eyes hurt, or oh, my chest, or my back, or whatever. It's been just sensations, and they go away after time. When you see something physical pop up on your body that's never been there before, when you have health anxiety, it sends you into a fucking tailspin, man. And I tried to be chill. I was like, okay. I was like, look, we're going to wait a week and we're going to see if it's still there in a week, then we're gonna go to the doctor. I waited like 3 days before I reached out to my doctor. I'm not gonna lie. I was brave for 3 days, and but in those 3 days, I was like putting like fucking tape or a band-aid over it so I didn't see it. I was wearing long sleeves. I was doing anything I could to not think about it. And I ended up like talking to my doctor about it. He was like, give it a week. If it's still there, you can come see me. I go see him. He looks at it. He's checking it out. He was like, and I had just like my dog accident like nipped me that week, and I was like, oh my god, did my dog give me something that's causing this bump? And like, oh my god, I have this crazy infection in my arm now, and then my arm's gonna get chopped off. You know what I mean? That's how crazy it is. Doctor was like, no, your cut wasn't even deep, like that bite on your finger wasn't even deep enough. Like, I wouldn't even worry about that. I don't see any signs of infection, and it's already healed. So like, that's not an issue. And the thing is, he just looked at it and he like, he was kind of checking it out. He did his whole doctor thing, and like, he checked my whole body. And he was like, like, I don't see anything going on with your lymph notes or anything like that. He was like, I wouldn't worry about it. And I'm like, doc, fucking, hello. What do you mean I'll worry about it? And so like, I left that office being like, yeah, not good enough. Not good enough. That guy, there's no way, like, you just see a bump on your body and just ignore it. You know what I mean? And so that kind of freaked me out. And the thing is too, like, he called it something, and I looked it up and I couldn't find anything on the internet about that. This is again a problem. So researching your symptoms is the worst fucking thing you could do as somebody who suffers from anxiety, especially health anxiety. It is the worst thing you can do, but it's such a bad habit to break. Like, I'm not a very addictive person, except maybe when video games, but I haven't played video games in so long, it feels like, not like I used to. And I feel like breaking up with researching stuff or finding like recovery stuff when it comes to health anxiety is probably the most addicted thing I've ever had, because I'm just like, I need to search it. You know what I mean? And so, questioning what your doctor says all the time is not a good thing to do. And so I couldn't find this thing. I go tell that to my therapist, because I think I see her that like the next day or 2 days later. And she's like, why don't you check his notes? And I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, she's like, if you don't know what it's called, go check his notes. Like, those are on, because like you can search all that stuff online. So I checked his notes and I found out what he, like, the technical medical term he called it, popped up like that on fucking Google. And I was like, oh, okay. And I looked at the symptoms and I was like, well, I don't see anything like that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I was like, I'm not gonna worry about it. I was like, I don't have any of that stuff, but whatever. Dude, I shit you not, a little TMI here. A few days later, I'm like, washing my body and notice a spot, a little bit of a rash or something like that I've never seen before. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, what the fuck is that? And turned out I must have went to a gym, this climbing gym that I went to, and I must have caught something there. I might have caught something from like their dirty mats or something like that, because I was like, what the fuck? I went back and looked at my notes on my damn fucking big ass calendar that I have, and everything started making sense from when I went to that gym a week or two later to when I got the bump to a few days later after the doctors to finding this thing on my body. I was like, oh, and one of the symptoms of getting one of these bump things, because apparently these can build up in your body because they're fighting an infection, is whatever the fuck I had. And I'm like, bro. So like, it was a genuine thing. Like, the doctor knew what he was talking about. He mentioned that when I talked to him. He was like, these things build up when your body's trying to fight an infection. And he was like, it could go away in a few months, or you might have it forever. He was like, you can get it removed later if you want. He was like, but for now, I wouldn't worry about it. So like, I was like driving myself crazy, believing, like telling myself this doctor didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. And then it turned out that he was right. That doesn't mean that every doctor is right all the time. If that was the case, people wouldn't be getting sued for malpractice and shit like that, right? But for the most part, I think when you are somebody that, if you've been to your doctor a lot and you have health anxiety and they've said everything's right, or like nothing's wrong with you, you've done the test and all that jazz, you gotta like kind of believe it. And it's one of the hardest things to do. And that's essentially what I've been dealing with. Like, it's rough. I deal with it on a daily basis. Some days are fine, man. Some days are totally cool. Like, I'll have a good day and I'm like, yeah, I went out and like I went for a run or I did all that kind of stuff. And some days are just like laying down in bed because I'm like, my eyes are fucking with me too much, man. And it's rough. It's one of the reasons why I stopped streaming, by the way. Like, for anybody that's like, oh, Juice, I want you to stream again. Well, part of it was because I was doing too much. I needed to cut something out. Streaming wasn't growing. A lot of people weren't able to show up. Everybody's got lives. Everybody's got jobs. In this economy, you gotta keep what you got. You know what I mean? And so, like, obviously, I understood that, like, the stream's probably just not gonna grow. But it was also like I was anxious as fuck during those streams, and I'm like, this probably can't be good. Like, and kids like you get real hot with these lights and stuff like that, and you're like, oh man, it's getting hot in here, and it's just like, oh my god, that skyrockets your anxiety because like, what if it's not just the hot? Like, I didn't get like this back in the day when I probably did. I probably did, and that's another thing that people don't talk about. Like when you have panic attack and health anxiety, my panic attack genuinely wiped my brain of what sensations felt like prior to a panic attack. So like if I had these eye issues from being like tired of like maybe looking at screens too long, I don't know. I don't remember that. I genuinely don't. Because I'm like, I only remember what happened post panic attack. And so like if I had like chest pains before, my brain doesn't remember that. It's like maybe we had them. Probably. That's a human experience. And I probably did, like genuinely. But my brain just is like, should we be worried? Should we be worried about that? What about that neck and your neck hurts? What about that? Like, oh my god. And like everything, man. Everything. And what sucks too is as you get older, like I have, my grandmother's getting older, they're getting sick and stuff like that. Like my parents are getting older. And like I think about like, oh, if one of them like, oh yeah, you're so and so sick right now, or so and so just got diagnosed with this or whatever, I'm like, oh my god, that's freaking family timelines. Like I have that, or I'm gonna have that, and it's just like, bro, it's just constant overthinking. And yeah, so like right now, it's intense. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to kind of like talk about health anxiety because I feel like somebody could stumble upon this. And just know if you're going through health anxiety, you're not the only one that deals with that kind of shit. And you're probably having some insane sensations that you feel like nobody's ever had because you can't find somebody to describe it exactly like you're feeling it. But just know, man, I feel you. Yeah, I don't know exactly what you're going through. But if you have like one eye thing going on and it's only one eye that feels really annoyed or like, having a weird sensation, it might just be the anxiety because I've done a lot of tests and I haven't found anything. My vision's still good, all that jazz. Like I can drive, I can do all that, and yeah, health anxiety fucking sucks. That's all I wanted to say. I actually wanted to make this video like later in the month. I definitely did not want to open up with an anxiety video in one of the first week or so. But today has just sucked, and this yesterday kind of too. Like I literally went and bought one of these eye things. I'm like, I'm gonna freaking, you put this in like the microwave or something like that. You heat it up and you put it on your eyes to, I don't know, it does something. Like I've heard about it, but yeah, it's just constant. Like, and it sucks because it does kind of keep you from doing normal things sometimes. And again, like I'm able to live life. I'm able to go out and I'm able to do stuff because I force myself to do it. That's the biggest thing. I force myself to go and do life because like if you just stay home all the time. Now, granted, I feel for my agoraphobics and I feel for my social anxiety brethrens and sisters out there. But like brothers and sisters, brethren. Does brethren incorporate all genders? Is that how? I don't know how that works. Anyways, I feel for you because like I know that that's the biggest thing. Like stepping outside is scary, or just interacting with other people is scary. That doesn't bother me. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother me. Like sometimes I wish I could switch places with you. If you'd rather worry about your health all the time instead of like being scared about going outside, like just because you want to go outside, I wish we could trade places for a week or two. Just because sometimes I don't mind staying home. You know what I mean? And I've heard that some people don't mind being at home with those those types of anxieties. But I could be totally wrong. So let me know in the comments if you are somebody that suffers from those. But yeah, man, I will just say like there are times when I want to do something, right? And then the health anxiety kicks in. And yeah. It's just tough. So I just want to talk about it, just in case anybody else out there is suffering from anxiety, whether it be health anxiety, generalized anxiety, so social anxiety, anything, death anxiety. Anything out there. Anxiety sucks. But don't stop living life because you're scared of your anxiety. Like, I get it. It's hard. I will say I am a big fan of exposure therapy, of slowly doing something to overcome whatever fear it is. I actually did a lot of exposure therapy after my panic attacks. I wasn't able to come in this room for a long time. A lot of people know that. I wasn't able to come in this room for a few weeks. And then, yeah, it was probably like 2 to 3 weeks. I wasn't able to come in here. And then I just slowly was in here for 5 minutes. Then the next day, 10 minutes. The next day after that, 20 minutes. The next day after that, 40 minutes. I just kept doubling it. And eventually, I was able to just come back and not be comfortable in here, but I wasn't scared to be in here. And I did the same thing with driving. I had a panic attack while driving, and slowly started driving to the mailbox, back around my neighborhood, back to the store, back. And yeah, eventually your brain gets rewired and you're able to do those things again. It might not feel comfortable. Eventually you'll feel more comfortable. I know I hated being on the driveway a lot because I'm in the highway a lot because I was just worried about everybody else, right? I was like, oh, these fuckers don't know how to drive. But there are days when I drive on the highway all the time now. I'm just like, don't even care. So again, you have good days and bad days. But yeah, I just want to talk about that because again, this is another reason why I'm doing Vita because I want to challenge myself because I do think at one point doing YouTube, especially back in November when I was doing all those Logan Paul and MrBeast videos, I was getting extremely stressed out by YouTube. And I feel like that's why I came into 2025 just saying like, fuck YouTube. I'm just going to do whatever I want. And if I drop a video a month, that's cool. If I don't, I don't. I don't care. And not saying that Vita is going to get me back into the mood of like, I'm going to try to make the best YouTube videos possible. I just want it to like not make me scared of making a YouTube video, if that makes sense. Because I do think if you constantly run away from things with anxiety, anxiety just gets stronger and stronger. And I definitely don't want to get to a place to where I'm just staying home and never wanting to leave like I was before. So although anxiety can suck, this health anxiety can suck most of the time, I'm still trying to get out and do things. And the one thing I have noticed is there are times when I do go out and that I don't even realize I have anxiety, which is nice. Like one time I went to Barnes & Noble and I felt terrible going in there. Like I was like, oh my God. But then I randomly started talking to people in the manga section, and I completely forgot I had eye sensations. And I'm just like, oh, maybe it is anxiety. So I don't know. Maybe that gives you some hope. But that is it for this episode, day 3 of Vita. Let me know how you like this stuff. Let me know if you're dealing with any anxiety in the comment section down below. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the next one.